Cool, man. So I just wanted to have a quick introduction, Matthew, and then feel free to take over. I just wanted to say it's a very exciting guest we have. His name is Simon Stern, and he is organizing a cool event here in Toronto in February, and we're very happy to have a small sponsorship for that event as well. Just because I feel like that's such a cool little topic that we can further elaborate. And Toronto didn't have a lot of those type of conversation on such a topical theme. So he's organizing this event, and we're happy to support him. I'm not sure if the space yet has been chosen, but Simon, why don't you introduce yourself, and I'll just be quiet for the rest, I guess, but I can chime in here and there.
For sure, yeah, no. So first of all, thank you so much for hosting me here and for being down to sponsor and help partner on the event. And yeah, I mean, it was interesting because prediction markets have taken off, and they are, I think, quite a different thing than like regular kind of crypto like offerings and primitives. But there've been no like major events or like organized IRL things around them. So I figured, like, let's do it. Let's have a prediction market event in Toronto. It's like taken off for sure. We have, I think, in the 2 days since I've put it together, we currently have 48 people signed up. So that's really, really cool. So a bit about myself. I am a full stack software engineer. I've been a software developer for 10 years. I've worked across all kinds of things, MVPs, big corporate jobs. Around 5 years ago, I used to run a React Native, which is like a mobile app stack, React Native meetup group, and we grew that to like 2,500 people in Toronto. Hosted like massive meetups with that, with like RBI as a sponsor, and actually meetup.com was a sponsor for one of them. And so I'm kind of now like looking to get back into events with prediction markets because I find them really, really fascinating. It's like such a cool space. So hopefully we can build this into something that's more regular and kind of get that crowd out.
It kind of reminds me of like you see these like that Will Smith movie with I forget what it was called. It takes place mostly in Argentina, but at the beginning it's at the Super Bowl, and they have this Chinese guy. They keep gambling on random stuff, and this whole prediction market it just reminds me of that. But so like what if you don't mind me asking, what do you plan on like talking about at this event? Like what can people expect?
Yeah, no, so that's a good question. I'm right now I'm trying to get like a variety of different speakers. Like I know a few people building stuff in the space, and so actually a bit more about like what my whole angle in the space is. I really, I'm a builder. I really want to build something cool for prediction markets, and I started building a tool that's sort of like N8N, where you can plug in like different markets and then connect them to different APIs and data sources. And so for that, I needed to like talk to other builders, and it just was very interesting hearing what everyone's building and like how they're approaching it, because I think there's some like underlying assumptions with prediction markets that are different than regular like crypto trading terminals. So for the event itself, I'm kind of going to start out by just kind of presenting the concept, presenting some of the big ideas that people may be familiar with, people who may just be like joining because they're curious about the concept in general, and then kind of get a discussion going. And I'm going to try and get some of the builders that I know to either present, if they're in Toronto, to present in person, or to like, if we can get someone cool to like, zoom in and have a talk. And then I really want it to be like networking. I want people to be able to talk to each other about it. I want to like do something really fun and either have like a market for the event where you can bet on how many people are actually going to be there in person, or like have screens around the room for people to see different categories of markets and go like hang out in this category, look at a screen with a bunch of markets and talk to the people around you, so you can like talk about the geopolitics market or the mentioned market and kind of find your niche within that group.
I think that's like
Just to jump, I just wanted to jump in here, Simon. Just a quick question, guys. Do you already know where the event's going to take place? Just curious.
Not 100% yet. It'll actually depend on like some of the numbers that come in, because I have a couple of spots that have offered, and I'm not gonna like mention anything yet because we have to like work out details, but it could be at new stadium, it could be somewhere else downtown. It's gonna be like downtown at some some startup office.
Yeah, because we can like at least get 70 people. Like we can invite a bunch of people from our guest list, from Toronto DAO guest list and stuff like that. Unless you want it curated or something. So I'm just saying
No,
like
I
we can
think
make it a big event. Yeah.
yeah, I'm happy to make it a big event. I think the biggest event I hosted was like 200 people in Toronto.
Wow, that's crazy.
It was like absurd.
Yeah. What was the event about?
So that was like it was like mobile apps and different. This was like 6 years ago, so I'm just kind of remembering. But it was I started with a presentation on like the up to date mobile app boilerplates, and then RBI gave a talk on their tech stack. And RBI is the company behind like Tim Hortons and KFC, so they were kind of pitching their tech stack, and then there were a few more talks, but it was just like a regular like JavaScript tech talk kind of thing.
That's so cool. All right, cool. Keep us posted.
For sure. Yeah, no, I think that'd be great. I mean, I'm all for more people, because I think when you get a lot of people together for something like this, lots of like relationships form, interesting things happen. So I'm totally up for that. If you guys know people who work in the space or are building in the space, I would love to chat with them and see if they want to give a talk as well.
Yep, I'll keep asking around.
I was gonna say, like, I also think it's kind of cool that you're gonna have like bets regarding the event, and I think that's something like, I don't know how Mary you feel about this, but I think it'd be really cool if we did something similar for our events. How many people are going to attend, like it, and stuff like that.
Yeah, I like the idea of making the events sort of like as interactive as possible. I used to go to a lot of stuff that was like you know, it's fun, like you go, you meet a couple of people, you listen to some talks, maybe you talk and then you leave, but it's more fun when you can just kind of give it like a bit of an edge.
Yeah, so maybe that's something we have to look into. What else can we gamble about?
Yeah.
but so like this is fairly new, so can you just explain like what exactly is like prediction markets, the difference between this and like just betting on a hockey game or something?
Right. Well, so prediction markets, you like actually can like you can bet on hockey games. Sports is like 80 to 90% of the volume of current prediction markets. And even in places where it didn't start that way, they sort of eat into it. So it's like the main thing. But what makes them interesting is when you get into things like geopolitics or the interest rate or economics. And I'm no, I just want to make clear, like I'm no expert on it. I'm sort of learning as we go myself. But basically, because of the way that like smart contracts work, you can kind of enshrine the rules of these markets in a way that makes them extremely fair to judge. So with Polymarket specifically, like you have an oracle through a service called UMA, and if there's like a dispute, then inside UMA, the people who hold the UMA token kind of decide the truth. And like theoretically, that means that they can just, arbitrarily say the sky is green or whatever. But then if that is like, there's like a lot of mechanisms in place around that, where if they are, cheating the system, they get slashed, they lose their tokens. And sometimes I will say, like sometimes in Polymarket, there's like heavy disputes on certain things. If you're ever really curious to see like the internal plumbing of some of these markets, you can go to UMA Discord and you can see people arguing over like mentioned markets, where it like sounds like Trump mentioned a Pokemon name, or it's like something like that. So yeah, and there's like a whole kind of science to them, which is what brought me into this idea of that, like if with prediction markets you sort of have like a universal source of truth for the news and for sentiment. And instead of having, the New York Times tell you the economy is doing well, you instead have, a batch of markets where people are betting on, what the numbers are going to be, or what the interest rate is going to be, or if XYZ is going to happen. And through looking at these different charts, you kind of get a much more accurate sense of how the markets feel about any particular like part of the economy or geopolitics. Another interesting feature of them is the concept of like insiders. And in prediction markets, insiders are kind of encouraged because that's information. So, you know, if there's like, I think there was like a big one a couple of days ago where like a geopolitical, like in a war zone, there was an insider who predicted this exact thing would happen 3 times in a row. And then they just made another major bet yesterday. And everyone was like watching that wallet because they're like, oh shit, like something's about to happen. But then nothing happened. But everyone else who's now tracking this wallet kind of ran it up, and then that wallet exited and like, you know, took 50% off the top. So there's like a really interesting component of it being like a lens into reality that we didn't really have without, like we wouldn't have had without crypto being able to run it.
So there's a couple of things you said I want to like talk about. You said how like the oracles kind of make sure that the like settle disputes and like what happened, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so there is an interesting event that happened that so there it's up for debate. Not to get political with this, we all know what happened with Venezuela. Someone made a prediction that the United States would invade Venezuela on Polymarket, a bet that would net them $400,000. Polymarket has
Mhm.
refused to pay out that bet, and there is a dispute on what constitutes as an invasion. Polymarket says that they have to have like troops on the ground and occupy the country, and the guy that made the bet is saying that capturing Maduro counts. So that's sort of a dispute that's the Oracle hasn't really resolved.
Yeah, and I mean, I totally agree. Like, it's not a perfect mechanism at all by far these days. I actually do think that's like a very solvable problem because with AI, we also have the ability to kind of round out all scenarios. And my own prediction, if there was a market for it, I would put money on it, is that like AI is going to be a major player in like rounding out these contracts and the rules around them. And I think a lot of like the traders, the really good traders, they always have the same advice, which is if you're going to bet on a market, like read the rules 100 times and make sure you know exactly what that criteria is. But yeah, I'm curious. What do you guys think? Like, do you think that? I mean, we don't like not to get political, but like, do you guys think that that is a market where it's a clear answer or not a clear answer?
I think it's. I do think it's not a clear answer, to be honest. Like, I think you could make a reasonable argument for both cases. Um, which, if you're having like a beer sitting at a table, could end up with a lively discussion. But when there's $400,000 on the line, you have to kind of come to a certain conclusion, right? And it's important to know who's right and who's wrong.
I think like if we're talking about the invasion bet, like the term invasion probably already has a very definitive war military definition, right? So I mean, it's definitely like, oh, the invasion constitutes that one nation like set foot on another nation's territory through military means, something like that, right? Like it's probably in the military textbook. And if something like that was actually written as a rule before the bet started or at the beginning of the bet as a condition, then it should be kind of a straightforward. So maybe Simon, you know more context on that if you have researched that. Um, but yeah, like if it's really written down, then I have no beef with that. But if it's like vagueness and it's arbitrarily decided, then it's kind of shaky.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I was actually following that market, and I think what I what I got from that was that the definition of an invasion was that they had to like have troops on the ground for like holding territory for a certain amount of time, and so that's why they resolved it not to not be an invasion. And I just feel like over time the rules for these will just get a lot more specific, and that'll be like a really good thing too, because then it sort of removes the ambiguity, and then it gives us like more clarity into whatever it is we're trying to kind of resolve, figure out with these markets.
Well, yeah, like the next bet that covers something similar, another country invading another country. I'm afraid to be more specific than that these days. But they'll definitely be like, okay, invasion means boots on the ground for 2+ days, or something like that.
Yeah, and the geopolitics ones are interesting because I feel like for the people in these areas, it's really like a helpful way to cut through like the propaganda in their own country or like that they're seeing abroad. The market doesn't care about that. It just wants to know what's happening.
But shouldn't the Oracle then dispute this? Like, shouldn't they have like a vote or something that like, okay, is this an invasion? Yes or no? And whoever wins, that's the outcome.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with I think it's also one of those things where we can't decide right away because there was just incomplete information. And it's like if they went in and grabbed him and actually left, then I would say that's not an invasion. If they went in and grabbed him and we don't know what's happening, and there's like, like a group of American troops like garrisoned in the palace, then
Fog of war.
Yeah, exactly, fog of war. And so we don't actually know. But I mean, I obviously like the incentive of the yes invasion holders is that they want to just like clear that book as quickly as they can and kind of get out of that situation. But I do think. Sorry, go for it.
So is there like a time limit when like this has to be like they have to invade by X date, or like, because I don't really know. I've never made one, so I don't know if like they have a window when this date is open, or because can Trump invade Venezuela tomorrow and then it's not up for debate? He gets his money. Like, how does this work?
That's a really good question. I don't actually know if that market specific, like usually there's like it resolves month to month so that you can actually kind of collect. Because if it was like an indefinite one, then you may never collect on your no, because it's like they didn't invade today, but they may invade tomorrow, so the outcome will not be no. So I think it's like every month they say, will they invade by end of June, July, August, and I think I'm just looking at it now. I see U.S. Venezuela military engagement by like March. Yeah, so for this one, it's interesting. Like end of January, March, June, December for 2026 is all resolved to yes already. If you had that on your list.
Oh, so they changed it. They said it counted as an invasion.
Well, this one I'm reading is military engagement. I wonder if.
Oh, that's different. That's not up for debate.
Yeah. I wonder if there is. Let me just look for U.S. Venezuela invasion. I mean, I can see them just like removing that from Polymarket entirely, just to avoid the mess. But yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting because we're still in such early days of these ideas that it's if you're making these markets and they're like poorly worded, you're gonna get a lot of flack from people.
And it's interesting stuff. And I'm kind of like, when I knew we were going to do prediction markets, I'm like, I had to talk about this topic because it's it's an interesting like part of it. And you said like fixing or not fixing, like insider knowledge is sort of part of it too. They actually did a South Park episode. I don't know if people still watch, if anybody here watches South Park, where this is going to be a controversial one. There was a Polymarket bet where Kyle's mom was going to launch a missile against a hospital in Gaza. And
yeah, I haven't watched this season, but I saw that they had made an episode about it.
Yeah, so basically they're just like it was really low odds, and of course Kyle was pissed off, and they decided to Cartman and Stan tried to like increase the odds uh, of it happening, like on Polymarket, to make people think that Kyle's mom would actually bomb a hospital, and yeah, the odds were kept going up and up and up, and then for some reason Kyle actually went. Kyle's mom actually went to Israel, and they're like, "Oh my god!" And so they thought they were actually going to lose the bet. But yeah, but anyways, like, why does that
I
actually?
love
What keeps?
I love I love how you talk about South Park and retell the episodes, Matthew. We should have a separate show about that.
Yeah, every week. I don't have Paramount anymore, but every week I just instead of a separate space where I just recount the South Park episode.
That's funny. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the coolest thing, like one of the cool things about prediction markets that I've been like also kind of nerding out about, which the South Park episode sounds like it sort of got into, was this concept of reflexivity. And I'm not sure if you guys are like familiar with that, but I'll definitely talk about that at the um, the meetup in person. But reflexivity is basically this idea that if you make a market on something, it then can kind of go back and affect the thing that you're making the market on. So an example like that, if you like make a market that, you know, the US is going to bomb a country, and then the leaders of that country see that market and see that it's at like 80 or 90%, they like start to like alert their military and prepare for the bombing and everything. And then because they're now more prepared, the US like can't do that anymore. As an example, right? Like that kind of thing. I think as these become more and more entrenched into like society and how we kind of view information and news, and I do think we're definitely going to be like seeing them a lot more. I think more stuff like that's going to happen. I think even yesterday, the White House press secretary left the press conference like in the middle of the press conference because there was a market that was going to resolve for her going over 65 minutes, and she left at like 64 minutes and a half and just like jumped out of there.
I saw that.
Yeah, I saw that. Do you think she was in on it?
I don't know, but if she was, that'd be extremely funny. I hope she made money.
It's. I mean, we've been talking about this with before with the crypto prices, right? Some people thought somebody within the Trump administration was uh, was gambling, or I should say, like making uh, long and short trades based on what Trump was doing. And I remember on Friday, Trump said he basically was going to start, the big trade war with China, and crypto crisis crashed, and somebody shorted the crypto market shortly before he made that statement. And uh, then, like Sunday night, he longed crypto, and Trump was just like, just kidding. And then, of course, like the prices completely rebounded, and this guy made like tons of money.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, I mean, it's hard because you can kind of see it being a really bad thing net, where a lot of weird shit starts to happen like that, and people's like actions become predicated on what a prediction market is telling them more than like the actual underlying thing that they have to do. You know, like the press secretary shouldn't leave because of a prediction market. You know, she should leave when all the questions are asked. Or like president shouldn't be wasting his time pumping, you know, these markets so that someone can make a lot of money. It's like a waste of energy. So in that respect, like I think people who are in positions of like extreme power who can affect these markets start to kind of use them as like their bias of action. Um, I think we're in trouble with that kind of thing. But I don't know. I don't know if Net's like for other kinds of versions of it, if it ends up being something more useful.
But it couldn't technically like blockchain at least try to create some transparency. Well, like we don't know who that person that made a lot of money with the fake Chinese trade war. But I think they caught someone who filed a fake XRP ETF, and he longed XRP like before he filed that, and like the XRP like went up, and he made a lot of money, and they caught him, and so they're looking into like some sort of persecution. And you look at sports betting, it's always been controversial when someone gets caught uh, trying to fix fights. Or fights like sporting events, I should say. Last year, a member of the Raptors, not a major one, like a guy that bounces between the G League, and when he's in the NBA, he's usually like sitting at the end of the bench. He made this like ridiculous bet where he was only gonna play for like 2 minutes, and even like an extra guy just to give the main guys rest, like they usually play like 5 6 minutes, and ridiculous odds. And then on his very first shift, he like quote unquote injured himself, and the bet was like a lot of money. And Vegas didn't pay it out because they thought something was suspicious, but they wanted to like, so they investigated and he got caught. But wouldn't it make it easier to catch people like this?
Yeah, I mean it's a tricky space because I kind of want to do more reading around the concept of insiders from like an economic perspective before I give like too much of an opinion. But like I feel like the house doesn't want insiders because that's unfair to the house. And then in regular like sports betting, you don't want insiders because that's unfair to like you if you're trying to judge. But you are sort of, I think, mostly gambling. But when it comes to like other facets of society that have these markets, the insiders are like the market is giving information more than something where you like have any particular edge. That's sort of how I see it. Like it's definitely a feature, and if you try and kind of prevent people from like, I don't think you can prevent them. First of all, like sports betting has never been able to prevent insiders, but I think just giving that like openness and candidness to it, that like there are people that will do this stuff, kind of levels the playing field more.
Well,
I don't know, what do you guys think?
They haven't fully prevented it, but like they've laid down the hammer on people that have gotten caught. Like that NBA player I mentioned, he's now banned from the NBA. So like that's his career gone.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like, and as it should be if he's kind of fucking around on like what he should be doing. But I'm kind of
Simon, what?
Sorry, go for it.
I was just gonna add something that I was curious. Like, as far as prediction markets go, do you place a lot of how do you say you don't call it bets, right? Or do you call it bets officially?
I don't know if there's official
predictions.
Term. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like either making a bet or like buying a position.
Yeah.
Like it's like I bought a lot of yes for XYZ market is like one way of talking about it.
Do you mess around with that at all, or you just kind of observing?
I've like bought a few and I'm trash, to be honest. I like the new thing I'm doing is, so I'm building my platform which lets you plug in data directly from X, and like you can kind of make a Twitter list and see all of those tweets and then connect those to markets. And then if people on the list are talking about that market, it sort of kind of highlights that. So that's what I'm building, because that's what I'm most interested in around this stuff, is kind of seeing how people talk about markets, especially if they like know something. But like when I just try and make random bets, it doesn't work. Another thing that's really interesting is copy trading is extremely popular. I don't know what it's like in crypto because I'm not like not too.
Yeah, copy trading is huge on crypto. What's the? Oh, so it's the same logic basically, right? So you're just tracking someone's wallet.
Yeah. So copy trading in this is like a little. I mean, I don't really know how it works in crypto too much, but like with this, it's interesting because you kind of pigeonhole someone to like a specific way of thinking. So it's like if somebody's only betting on geopolitics markets, then obviously that's like their thing and they are reading the news. Or if someone's only betting on mention markets, then they're like reading past speeches and looking at like word probability. So the kind of sharp that they are is like a totally different thing. So it's a very interesting space. And then people, if they run up a wallet like a lot and it's obviously making money and a lot of people start copy trading them, they can basically make a bet, like tell some KOL, oh, like I've made this bet, like run it up on Twitter, and then everyone else runs up the odds and then they can exit. And it doesn't matter if the bet was going to win or lose, like they can just kind of guarantee money. So it's a really interesting space. I know of like a whole bunch of devs that are building copy trader bots, and they're very easy to build, so pretty cool.
Yeah, that actually makes sense. And sorry, Matthew, if I'm taking over, I just have some questions that I had in mind. Like, how do you see this whole, like, it cannot be just like Calcia and Polymarket, like, and it's pretty much just better. Like, what do you see like in the future? Like, what's the next level for this prediction market stuff? Everyone's like partnering with them, but at the same time, it's still the same thing. You're just betting on an outcome of some sort of an event. But like, what else is there to do? Like, it sounds like copy betting is actually pretty cool, but and good for them for inventing it, or not inventing, but like doing this whole thing. But what else is there? Do you see? Like, what are your thoughts on?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I hope I see things that like blow my mind. First of all, that I like could never have conceived of. But like the two major things, 2 or 3 major things that I see are like parlays, where you can bet on kind of a basket of outcomes and then maybe even like the second order effects of the outcome.
Oh, that doesn't exist yet?
I think it's like starting to, but it doesn't exist officially on Polymarket. I know someone building something for it, but I think there's like a whole bunch of difficult elements to it, because another big issue with prediction markets in general is liquidity. They don't have very good liquidity across like a broad section of markets, only kind of the popular ones. So they can be very inefficient, and then it's hard to kind of settle up if you have a parlay that relies on something like that. But I think people are working on it, and very, very smart people in the world are going to definitely solve it. The other is like liquidity and making bets across markets. I see some people are making they're finding like arbitrage between a Kalshi market and a Polymarket for the same outcome. And if they see that there's like a 2% gap, they can just buy either side, and then they like win their 2% regardless. And I know a few guys who are like working full time on just finding that. And there's like Dome API, which is a new YC company that is doing like, they're trying to build extremely advanced APIs to connect to all the prediction markets. And there's like markets that are being made, like new entire ones that I forget the name, but there's like a third one that's trying to kind of come up right now that just came out with builder codes. But I think liquidity will be a big issue for them. So someone will solve that. Parlays and second order effects, someone will solve that. And then what I'm really, really interested in is just seeing it as like a source of news. So I think there was something yesterday about like Wall Street Journal and Polymarket have just partnered up. And so now, we may start seeing like Polymarket embeddings in the Wall Street Journal website. There was a guy yesterday who made a website that turns markets into like news articles that look like a newspaper. So it sort of works backwards from the market to like write the article, and like using that. I think I'd love for like what I'm building as well to become something that people use to like aggregate a bunch of news. I think a really interesting piece of reading about this too is the original paper on this is like 30 years old now, but it's called Vote Values but Bet Beliefs, and the author is like one of the godfathers of prediction markets, and he talks about this concept called feudarchy. And basically he says that like you can almost replace government, like large parts of government, with prediction markets, because if people are betting on what's going to happen, then if the bet is that like this bad thing is going to happen and everyone believes it, you know, you can have some sort of mechanism to front run that and try and fix it before it happens. I mean, then there's like incentives of people who want it to happen, but it's like it's a whole thing. So it's we're still like early days, but yeah, there's definitely some cool stuff we could see in the future.
It's like a public opinion on steroids, like a public opinion polls.
Yeah, exactly. Public opinion on steroids. I love that framing.
Yeah, there you go. That's awesome.
I'm not much of a gambler, but I might, bet a tiny bit here just to see what it's like.
Yeah,
You know, it's funny. It's like
yeah, sorry.
just to intervene. I was thinking about that. It's like as long as you have, if you're stay within your lane, so to say, like for prediction market, like, do you have necessary expertise or inside knowledge to actually place a bet, right? Like my friend is from Ukraine, and he knows a lot about like Ukrainian war with Russia, and back last summer when Trump was elected or something like that, there was a lot of speculation that the war is going to stop right away, and he's like, no way, the war is going to stop, and he bet it actually, and he won money just because he understood like what's happening based on his perspective with his context. So it's like, you know, if there's something about like Matthew, for example, for you, like something like Toronto related, and you know a lot about the city, about the culture and all that, and you just have this insight, or hockey, for example, right? Something like that. I mean, sports betting, but something like where it's like, let's say welding, like iron welding or something, and there's some sort of a thing about whether the bridge is going to collapse or not, and you have this engineering skill, and you understand how the architecture works, and you can bet based on your personal expertise. Then it's like, okay, well, then you have to take it, like, right? If you're saying some shit and you're trying to you claim that you're an expert, like, the question is then, well, have you placed a bet on that if you're so smart? You know what I mean? Put your money where your mouth is, and it's very easy now to put your money where your mouth is if you really mean it, and that's how you determine whether this dude is for real or not. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Like, I wouldn't even call that insider information, right? That's just not common knowledge, but if you really wanted to, you could learn it. Although, like, there are others.
Yeah, I'm also referring to, like, on Twitter, there's a lot of freaking experts. Everyone's knowing what they're talking about. Everyone's trying to tell you what to do. Everyone's trying to say, like, oh, I know something. This is gonna okay. Like, but the question is, like, have you placed a bet on that? Did you put money on that? If you're so smart, you know what I mean? And then if the person said yes, here's my here it is on blockchain, and it's visible for public consumption. Then it's like, okay, like, he has skin in the game. It's basically Nassim Taleb all over again. Skin in the game. That's all. Simon, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and it's like an interesting. It basically you see like a rise of like bettors that almost I feel like that's another thing that's going to happen is a lot of these bettors are going to become pseudo celebrities and like influencers, because like there's one guy I follow who he consistently talks about how he makes like an annual salary of his job every month just betting on Polymarket, and it like blew his mind because he never realized that he actually had this insight into politics that is clearly a lot better than public opinion or the markets. And I think giving people that opportunity is very interesting, and giving people the chance to like see what they actually can do, because it's like what you said with putting your money where your mouth is. Like everyone's a genius until you have to bet a single dollar on what you actually think, and then the second you have to put that dollar down, it totally clouds your judgment. And like it's like buying stocks. It's like, oh yeah, like I obviously would have bought Bitcoin or this and that like 10 years ago, but like no, the second you actually have to put that dollar down, so I think you'll start to see people who are like really, really like abnormally good at mention markets, abnormally good at Ukraine markets. And I'm trying to track them. Like every time I come across someone on Twitter, and like my feed is now very nicely feeding me these people algorithmically. But like you see some really interesting people who can like predict shit with like relatively high accuracy that's it's useful to society, in my opinion.
And if this is classified as gambling, just for the Canadian peeps, there's no taxes on gambling winnings. Just putting that, I feel like that's something that I should put out there.
Is that true? I didn't actually know that.
Yeah, so like you know how you see like the Powerball in the US, they win like $1.3 billion and then they take home like 400 million after taxes.
Right.
Yeah, if you win, our winnings aren't that big, but if you win like a 15 million Canadian jackpot from the lottery, you take home 15 million.
That's very interesting. I wonder if it will be classified as
Same thing if you go to the casino.
yeah.
Now, if you lose money at the casino, you cannot deduct those uh, losses. But yeah, if you go to the casino, you put $1,000 on black and it shows up, you don't pay $1,000 on those taxes.
Right.
So
Yeah, I
I would
mean,
make the argument. I would
yeah,
push heavily with the CRA that this is gambling.
right. Yeah, I mean, I think it's like they don't really know how to classify it, but like there are people who literally now just do this full time and are confident doing it full time because they can just see that they're good at it. So if those people are in Canada and they're doing this tax free, that's incredible.
My cousin's a professional poker player. He doesn't pay taxes.
That's pretty sweet. And does
He's
he
open
play in
to it,
Canada
too.
mostly?
I don't know, but he'll literally like he once won 40 grand at a casino, like in a poker tournament, and he literally will just go to the bank with it. He just takes like a picture of like the casino receipt just to show like, yeah, this is me winning 40 grand, and the CRA can't touch it.
That is wild. I guess I have a question for you guys as well. What do you see with Toronto DAO and like how it's played out in the community here with crypto? Like, where do you see prediction markets fitting into that?
Sorry, you cut out a bit. Do you mind just repeating the question?
I think he is rejoining or something. But I heard his question was with Toronto DAO, where do we see prediction markets fit in with Toronto DAO or something like that, which is actually a pretty good question.
Yeah, sorry. The question was like, how do you see prediction markets fitting into like the crypto community and ecosystem, especially like the IRL community here in Toronto?
Well, I mean, there's always, I will say, like the gossip channel in the Web3 community here is not very strong compared to other communities. I don't know, maybe Samir feels differently. There's rarely like you hear about this, you hear about that. So I feel like that would slow it down personally. The fact that there's not a lot of gossip, because if gossip might fuel it, right? Oh, what this person did this, or do you think this person will react negatively to that? But I can definitely see some bets happening. And like I said, I like the fact where we could pay like how many people will show up to this event or how many people will show up to that event. What do you think, Samir?
Yeah, it's funny because I see it more of like outside of Web3 or Web2. I see it more of like events in general. But if we're talking about just the crypto in Toronto or anything like that, there's a couple things we can do about regulation and stuff, betting on that. What's going to happen in stablecoin and crypto and NFT markets and all of that, tax related bets, stuff like that. As far as some gossipy stuff, yeah, you're right. We don't have any like who's gonna maybe something with elections, something like that. But I feel like it's more exciting. I don't think crypto is such an exciting topic to bet on in Canada. I think there's a lot more exciting things to bet on in general, like secession of Alberta, or something like that. Like, or as far as Toronto goes, like some municipal stuff, some Olivia Chow situations, what she's working on, the tax situation, like all of that stuff. Like whether she's gonna increase the taxes on properties more, like that. That's more interesting because you can definitely have an inside knowledge and bet on that. But for crypto, I don't know, man. Like it's pretty basic. I feel like we have basic stuff here. Maybe like betting on when Binance will come back to Canada. See, like not in Toronto, like to Canada. Will it come back to like by 2029 or something like that?
Will what come back to Canada?
Sorry?
You said, will what come back to Canada?
Binance Exchange.
Oh no.
See,
Would you,
put your money
that
on
would-
that shit.
Yeah, I might.
We
If
should
it's up
start a
there,
bet.
I might.
Anyways, that's my answer.
That's interesting. Yeah, I like that because it's so different. I honestly think it's so different than like regular. I say regular crypto. I don't know if that's the right term, but it's different than crypto in terms of like the kinds of signals and things that you need to pay attention to and the kind of shape of it. It'd be interesting if it kind of fits into that community or if it's its own community. That's one thing I want to like learn from running this event. I want to see like what happens if like what the breakdown is of how many people are in crypto, how many people are there because they like want to become, you know, like prediction market traders or they want to build stuff in the space versus kind of people who just want to like speculate or they're just curious. So yeah, that's one major reason I want to see how it goes.
Yeah, and sorry, did you say the dates? I can't remember because you said at the beginning.
Yeah, the date is that's such a great question. Let me just look this up. I think it's February 10th, Tuesday, February 10th. Location TBD. I think if we get to like 75 people, it's going to kind of change what kind of location it's going to be. Toronto DAO is has graciously offered to like sponsor and help co-host, and really appreciate that. So yeah, it's going to be a great time.
Yeah. So just so you know, Simon, you already held some several events, so you know, like the amount of people register. Like I personally divide them by 3, and that's how I determine how many people will come. Conservatively speaking.
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah,
100%. The thing is, like, I think because it's so far in the future and the way like Lumo works, I think we will probably get this number to like 80, 100, and then like 30 people, maybe 30, 40 is. I mean, maybe we
Pretty
can
much.
start the prediction market now and just see how it changes. That would actually be cool.
That's kind of cool. But yeah, as far as the plays goes, like I'll try to figure out maybe there's some places that we know that you can get for free. New Stadium is cool. I'm not a fan of them asking us to take our shoes off. Like I don't know, something about it against it. I don't know if they still do it or not.
That's funny. I think so. It kind of gives it a spa vibe.
It's cold, man. The floors are cold.
I guess you could.
Oh yeah, it's cool. If New Stadium is cool, though. Yeah.
You should be used to chanclas by now.
Should be used to
Yes.
Chanclas.
He's referring to a Mexican shoes, I think, something like that.
That they wear inside.
I have Kazakh shoes. From Kazakhstan. Anyways, guys, I'm gonna log out, but thank you so much for the space, and Simon, thank you for your time.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thanks,
this
guys.
was
Thanks
a
for having
lively
me.
talk. I enjoyed myself.
Yeah.
It was a nice break from work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Matthew.
Cheers, guys. Thanks.
Have a good one.